Well, no, immigrants are actually at both ends of the labor market. Many of them are at the low end of it, but many of them are also at the very top. Because also some of the top professionals that move around and that obviously every country is trying to attract are migrants. But it's also true that many immigrants, even qualified ones, have to start out at very low-level jobs simply because these jobs are available and because many of the indigenous people in Europe, but not only in Europe, also in many other parts of the world, are no longer willing to perform this labor. And this has been the same throughout the history of migration. Yes, they end up in the service jobs, in agriculture, in those fields that are not very popular either because the hours are long or because they don't pay very much. The DDD jobs, the dangerous, dirty, but also maybe the B jobs because they're boring, below standard, and they're poorly paid. So it's clearly jobs that are available at the labor market for migrants to take. Let's remember that migrants are first of all human beings, like all of us, and therefore one shouldn't use this utilitarian approach. Migrants do play a useful role for host societies, but also for their home societies because they send remittances back, they contribute to the development, but they are also bringing their own culture, their own beliefs, and with that contribute to changes in host societies. Again, it depends. There are certain migrant groups that blend in without major problems, and then there are others where it is more difficult to integrate them, and we see signs of unsuccessful integration even in the second generation in many parts of Europe, even countries that thought some time ago that they had the perfect model of integration. So a lot of work needs to be done and a lot of investment made into better integrating people. Integration occurs through different levels. First of all, schooling, language, housing, then jobs, of course, and cultural integration, acceptance of different religious beliefs and the way they are being practiced. All of this has to come together in order to achieve successful integration. And then there has to be a basic consensus between the immigrants and the people who have lived in the place a bit longer about basic values that all of them accept. That is another problem. In some countries, they are nationals, they have the citizenship, they have the passport, but they still don't feel like citizens, at least like first-class citizens, because they have somehow been left behind by the society. So they might well be nationals of the country, but still might be considering themselves second-class citizens. And that is where the problem starts, because the second generation no longer accepts the hardship that the first generation might have allowed because they were new and they knew that immigration would be hard on them. Well, it has to be both sides, of course, and it has to be the institutions on both sides, not just the governments, because integration doesn't happen at the government level, it happens at the local level, the communities, religious institutions, NGOs, civil society, and the media as well, with the stories they bring about successful or not so successful migration and integration, and about conflict or solving conflict. It's always difficult for poorer people to settle in richer countries. When the Italians, we are here after all in an area that saw emigration until 40, 50 years ago, went to the United States or to Britain or to Switzerland a few decades ago, they were considered the poor, dirty, unacceptable immigrants, the same way as some of our societies now talk about people coming from Romania or coming from parts of Africa. So this has more to do with the economic status than with being European or being white or having another color. Well, I don't think there's any table that gives us any ranking or rating on this. Overall, I would say there is some progress in many parts, also because in much of Europe nowadays it's simply not acceptable to be racist, or at least to be openly racist or openly xenophobic. But there are pockets of resistance to this, again, in different countries at different times, that we have to be very alert about and try to combat, and not just combat but also heal, because xenophobia is in the first place a phobia which is a disease, and diseases need to be treated by applying the right methods and not by hitting at the patient. Oh, definitely yes, because the language of some of the people that practice xenophobia is becoming more cautious, because they clearly know and have found out that they are being watched. But of course our ability to analyze this is also becoming more subtle. What we have to try to do is keep some of these core issues out of the political debate as much as possible, which is not easy, because in Europe and other parts of the world, elections can be lost or won even by the major parties on the perception that migration is under control or not under control. Well, I think we have to look at each case separately there, and some cases can be treated very easily, especially with younger people. There is a good chance to catch the bug very early, but clearly analyzing is usually easier than arriving at perfect solutions. Well, to isolate it as much as possible, and to just make sure that it doesn't have a major impact on policies and on the behavior of the majority of the people. Well, I don't think you can measure it like this, because each country has different ways of measuring integration, also measuring crime committed by immigrants, and all this. So it's very hard to compare this. Overall, I think the best record on integration, on diversity and unity, as it is called, is probably held by Canada. In Europe, there are very good efforts in many places, but no perfect system, not even in the countries that we thought of some years ago as being the top of the class, like the Netherlands or some of the Scandinavian countries. That those who want to migrate can do so freely, but that nobody is forced to migrate because of crisis, of conflict, of economic needs, or of persecution for other reasons.